It's
Let me
doing all
show you.
sorts of funny circles, and we're live. It made
Now
it
you're live.
happen.
Hello.
There's
There
even
you
a
go.
countdown clock. Very excited to have a brand new switcher here to help me through these live shows. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Narrative Live. It's 7:30. With Ellie Leonard is here. Hi, Ellie. How are you?
Hello. I want to say that I have jet lag, but I stayed in the same time zone all week, so I just have lag.
You just have lag from that huge event on Tuesday night. That was a massive thing up against the State of the Union. Can't wait to hear about that. Plus, you've got some other big Epstein news to share with us later on, so that's exciting. And Lev Parnas is here, also back from the same trip. Lev, how are you doing?
I definitely have jet lag and all kinds of. I feel like planes, trains,
You
and
stayed in the
automobiles.
same time zone too.
Yeah, but I left my house at 6 in the morning. I got there like 12 o'clock at night, and then
Oh,
on the way
geez.
home, my plane also got delayed. It was just like don't ask.
Yeah.
But
Huge
it was worth
adrenaline
it.
rush probably after that great event that Defiance did. And
Yeah.
then they've also got some incredible numbers. I saw Miles posting some incredible digital reach numbers today, which is very impressive. It's nice to have that kind of
Was it
footprint.
over 250 million people? I think
Wow.
entered.
That's so nutty.
Yeah, that was
It was
amazing.
it was a great experience because it's so many people that you talk to, over the computer and you get to know them, but it was just like everybody was just in the room together and it just felt so friendly and happy. And I actually totally forgot to watch Robert De Niro because my former governor of Montana and my former senator were there and they wanted to go out and get drinks and I went with them and then I found out later that Robert De Niro actually spoke because I didn't think he was actually there and I was like, oh man, I forgot. Well, I'm drinking with the governor.
You forgot about Robert De Niro?
I
Wow.
know. It's really, really stupid.
Wow.
But I was just like, this is a moment, it was just like it was like a group of Montanans just went out in Washington, D.C. and it was just a lovely night. It was a great time.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Big news today. Obviously, Hillary Clinton testifying, although she walked out of there asking the same question that everyone else was asking: "What the hell am I doing here, and why am I the person testifying?"
Yeah.
Because I knew they were going to do this. I knew they were going to go right to Pizzagate, and then and they did at the end. She says they started asking her about Pizzagate, which is an attempt to frame her as being part of the Jeffrey Epstein human trafficking network. She's got nothing to do with it. But they were just looking for the sound bites. They were looking for the sound bites that they can then throw onto Fox News and whatever in the next few days to convince people that there is some sort of Hillary connection. There isn't a Hillary connection. She's never been to the island. She's never been on the plane. She doesn't know Jeffrey Epstein. All the stuff with her and her husband, and Jeffrey Epstein happened way before any crimes were alleged. So, it's just another very cynical Republican stunt that they did today. What's your take, Lev?
Well, I mean, listen. First of all, it's definitely part of a stunt. All of this is showtime politics, and they're trying to play the game. But look, at the end of the day, Hillary. I agree. I don't see what she had to listen. They brought her up. She testified. I think it backfired at them. I think by Hillary coming up there. I think now it's a nothing burger, and now they have something to respond. So I see nothing wrong with, and I think Bill needs to testify. It doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. Bill Clinton had a relationship with Epstein. We definitely know that. We've seen it in the files. So he needs to testify. The fact that they're playing the game by bringing him in and instead of bringing, people like, Wolfen or Bannon or, Peter Thiel or Elon Musk, people that we see all over the Epstein files that are currently, because there's a big difference to when Clinton was with them. And I think he came out and said afterwards that he ended all his relationship prior to actually his conviction. I mean, we'll see what it plays out, but assuming that is the case, I think it's important to see, but it's also important to see with all these power players that dealt with him after knowing he was already convicted, like the Howard Lutnicks that we're seeing play out, which we'll talk about, and everybody else. So that's who I want to see up there. I want to see Howard Lutnick up there, talk about. I want to see Steve Bannon up there. I want to see Michael Wolff up there. You know what I'm saying? I want to see people like that are all over the files that actually, where they can't say, "Oh, I forgot," like Les Wexner because he's 80 something years old, or Clinton that's going to also, be a professional and playing. I want to see where they're, all these text messages and emails and all of this documentation that you and Ellie and others have been unraveling, and put it in front of Lutnick and say, hey, what's this? Under oath. Now talk about it. Now, you know what I'm saying to you? That's
Yeah,
where I think
absolutely.
because then we're going to start seeing accountability. The fact that we have two people that got arrested, Mendelsohn and the guy they used to call Prince Andrew by the name of just Andrew in Britain, but we got nobody still arrested here. Like, think about it, except for Maxwell
No, they're
sitting
all
in prison. That's why
resigning.
they're all resigning, taking.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they're resigning as billionaires,
Right.
multimillionaires, still, in that little cabal. So, it is a theater. I agree with you. It is a game, but I'm glad that she testified, and I'm glad Bill's testifying, because at the end of the day, I want them all to testify. So, whoever goes first, I don't care. I want them all to testify.
Yeah. I mean, that's the best part of it, right? Is that if Clinton testifies, then Trump should testify. At least that's the argument they're making. Ellie, what are you expecting Clinton to do tomorrow?
Just objectively, because again, so far Clinton is not guilty of anything. He's one of these guys who's very in proximity, who might have known something, and I still hold him accountable for those reasons. But my hope was with Hillary is just that she, after seeing what Melinda Gates has been doing for the past few weeks, just to I wish she would, whatever she knows or doesn't know, I wish she would do it despite her husband and not necessarily as a team with her husband, because I feel like she has been run over by the bus a few times for him, and hopefully that's not what's happening here, but I just hope that she at some point feels like she can speak for herself to protect herself and no one else, because ultimately, who knows if he's in there, if he's not in there. We haven't seen it so far. We
But
haven't
from Bill
seen
tomorrow, do you think Bill's going to spill the beans? He's going to give the right stuff,
Uh,
or
he's a former president. He's going to be presidential and diplomatic, and
This
no,
is
I
Bill
don't think he's
Clinton.
going to
This
say
is Bill
anything.
Clinton. I
There's not
mean,
going to be
it's
any
like,
talking points. I think it'll
yeah.
be
Although he is an operator, he is smart, but he also knows
Yeah.
that this is his chance to protect the republic from this fascist takeover. I mean, he's aware of that part, I'm sure.
is that if he didn't need a
Yeah.
subpoena, if he wanted to save the country, he didn't need a subpoena. He didn't need to come out
He could
there.
have done it a
He
while
would have
ago.
been, he would have been sitting out there and all that. I mean, these guys are professionals. That's why, like I said, like it doesn't do anything. I'm aware that Bill Clinton, like you said, he's trained his whole life. I mean, Hillary Clinton, she's trained her whole life how to deal. I mean, just think about her being grilled on Benghazi over there. So I mean, these are professionals. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying to you. But you know who I really can't wait to see, and that's the star, going to be the star of the show. Not now, but when we take the House, and that's why when we're going to talk about later on why election, while they try to steal the election, is so important. What the president was said today is what we're going to see. The first subpoena out the door is going to be Melania Trump. And Melania
yeah.
Trump is not, and Melania Trump knows a lot more about all these things under oath. She has not, trust me, she is not a Hillary Clinton. She is not any of these professionals. And that is why I know for a fact that behind the scenes, Comer, Trump, all of them were worried when Bill and Hillary agreed to testify. That's why they were trying to figure out how not to. And I think that it was like a checkmate, because now Melania is fair game.
Did you see that she's going to be chairing a UN Security Council meeting soon, Melania? That was announced today. I was like, oh boy, they really are bending over backwards to try and make
They
her
remember
happy.
her reading stories to children. Did they remember that? Because that didn't go well.
No, can you imagine her trying to chair the UN Security?
Yeah.
It's not going to be a good look. Meanwhile, that's not the one I was going to try to show you. I was going to try to show you a picture of. Let me see if I can get him on here.
That guy.
This is Jamie Dimon. We don't want to see Jamie Dimon. We want to show you. Let me see if I can do it this way. There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Yep.
This is a slightly enhanced picture because the other one was a little bit blurry. But you've got this is from the files themselves, although you can't find this picture there anymore. It's been deleted, or that file's been deleted, or it's just all offline. In fact, before we got on the air, Ellie said that the entire DOJ search database was down.
You can't search for anything. You can't,
which is fascinating.
Which is what, it's what all of us are using to search for specific things, because otherwise you have to look at the entire Epstein files as a whole, listed by file numbers, which you don't know what's in the file numbers. So if you wanted to search for like Jean-Luc Brunel, you can't do it right now. The entire search system turns up nothing. But
Still
this
now,
one,
even now, when you
still now.
do, oh wow.
Yeah, yeah. And I first, because somebody came to me and they said, "Look, Trump's no longer in the files." And I go, "Holy cow, like maybe there's an error." Because if you don't search for something for a while, but you keep the tab open, you have to refresh it in order to search for more. It'll say it's not there. So I tried all that, and then I was like, my husband goes, "Well, you better search for Clinton, see if Clinton's in there, because that'll be the that'll be the test."
Yeah.
I searched for Clinton. Clinton wasn't in there either. And then I searched for the word "the." The word "the" was not in there, so the whole thing is down. But I do know, because before it was down, I do know that this picture, because I saw this picture and I was like, no way, too perfect. That
Mhm.
can't be Lutnick. That can't be such a perfect photo. And so I searched this one. I asked around, and somebody came back from CNN and said, "This is absolutely the file. Here's the screenshot from when it was first pulled. Here's where you can actually find it online, and this is a real photo."
It is definitely the real photo, and I got it out of JMail, which still had it. It's enhanced a little bit. I guess the question is this Lutnick? And by most accounts, the reason people think it's Lutnick is because those two people next to him are his sons, and that's easier to identify than Lutnick himself. I try to zoom in here a little bit, but it's not very helpful once you zoom in because it just looks more and more pixelated. But if it is Lutnick, this is probably, if he only went there once, which maybe he went more than once, this was probably the day that he went there for an hour lunch, according to him, with his 4 kids. Although his kids look a little older here than the age that he was describing, but still, it would be interesting to find out what date this was and whether it coincides with the date that Jeffrey Epstein, that Lutnick swore into oath, is when he went there with his nannies and kids, and then took them all back with him. But the story of Lutnick is very serious now. I mean, we've now seen this guy develop from, he was a neighbor who was appalled and disgusted to someone who we now know had a real business relationship with Jeffrey Epstein over several years, and whose other history at Cantor Fitzgerald also paints a picture of a criminal who's involved with money laundering, the Russian mob, and a whole bunch of other terrible things. So Lutnick is still in favor with the president of the United States. He still has his job. And he is probably the biggest target in the cabinet right now. Lev?
Yeah, I actually am writing a letter about that right now, and we spoke about that a little bit earlier on Wajahid's show. I would say Lutnick is going to be the first domino that falls, but not right now. Again, you gotta understand, Trump is not going to give the other side a win by firing anybody, and he is pissed off at Lutnick. He's pissed off at him from what my sources are saying on several reasons. For the fact that obviously this whole Epstein thing, it keeps getting bigger and bigger with Lutnick after his interview, and even then he was pissed off. Now he's seeing this thing get even bigger, and that instead of ending, it's expanding. But not only that, but also Lutnick and his family. You gotta understand, Cantor Fitzgerald, he is Mr. Wall Street. He's part of the Wall Street elite. He and Trump is also starting to see all the money Lutnick is making and his family's making on some of these tariff deals and all of the stuff that's being going on. And just like any mob boss, it doesn't matter how much money they make. They don't like to see your underlings make a lot of money under it. So it gets that little jealousy. It gets that that jealousy a little bit in there. So Howard Lutnick, I'm hearing, is on thin ice 100%. And I think if I was a betting guy, I would be betting that he would be the first domino to fall if one of them starts falling soon.
Your sources are... So go for it.
Oh, sorry. What year did he say? What year was it that he visited the island?
That he said he visited the islands. I don't know the answer to that one.
Isn't it 2012? Wasn't that? Does that sound right? 2012.
2012 is when they had a visit planned. I don't know if that's the year he says he actually visited.
Yeah, well, there's when they had the visit planned, there was actually an email from his wife while on the boat on the way to the island. So whenever they planned it, that would have been.
Yeah, I think that was 2012. I think, as far as I'm.
So my question is if it happened in 2012, his kids would have been 11, 13, 15, and 19. Would you have 4 nannies if your kids were 11, 13, 15, and 19?
I mean, if you're Howard Lutnick, you can afford them, but yeah, it's a good question.
Why would you have any nannies? Like there was no small kids.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's a good question.
That's a great.
Anyway, that was just
No, I mean, but these are
in the
the little
sky.
things, absolutely, and this is why this is what they have not expected because our crowdsourcing and all these. That's a great question, Ali. Why would
Okay.
you need all these nannies when you have all these adult kids?
Yeah. Let me see if
Because
I can find that email while we're
yeah,
talking.
that's
Yeah,
Okay.
that'll be really interesting, and also worth with finding out if how old the kids are in these pictures. I mean, they don't look like they're very young. So is this the actual
Yeah.
visit that they're talking about? Is this the actual visit that Lutnick confessed to going on this trip with? Of
but I'll
course,
tell you.
yeah,
Oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. What I was going to say is, the interesting part is that, one lie is with this administration, with this people, it's like we've gotten so used to the lies that one lie is not enough. We need to find more. He already lied. He already said that he has never visited him, never seen him. He's lied so many times. We've seen him. We've caught him over lie over lie. He says that he does it. He would after that time in this house. We know he was on the island. It doesn't matter what year, but we know he lied. He was on the island. He says he's never done any business. We know he's done business with them several times. We see it back and forth. Zav, you've been uncovering it. So the guy has lied. I mean, the fact that, and that's what I'm saying to you, if we catch him in another lie, and that's why I keep part of my whole thing was when I was in Washington, D.C. This week was when I was speaking to other Congress people. I was saying to them, I was saying, like, what smoking gun are we waiting for? I mean, well, everybody's out there parading. We need more stuff released. We need more stuff released, and I agree with it. First of all, don't get me wrong. I agree. We need everything released. We need all the father. But what I'm saying to you is, we got so much stuff right now that we are not touching on. I mean, like, how is Howard Lutnick not being dragged in there? If we want transparency, if we want to know what's going on, Howard Lutnick right now is the closest thing to besides President Trump that's all over those files. Why is he not being brought in? He's currently in the administration. Why are we bringing in people that have, last time they seen Epstein was 25 years ago, and we're trying to understand what they did with them 35 years ago or 40 years ago, which is important. I'm not discounting, but I think there's a lot more important stuff that we need to attract. And those are the things that are today. I mean, we see in the Epstein files that Bannon and Epstein were involved as far as 2018, while Trump was in office in his first administration. We see Michael Wolff that has been talking about that he still has hundreds of videos and pictures and all of the stuff that we're seeing in the Epstein files. He was a lot more than just somebody that was being a reporter. He was actually, you could say, a partner in some deal stuff.
Yeah,
He was
he tried to get Epstein to
right.
buy a magazine.
Exactly. Right. So you could see the relationships, like these are the people. I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's such an important thing. It's so vital what you're saying now, because none of the people actually involved with anything post his indictment or plea deal are actually being called up. Like Peter Thiel's not being called up. Bannon, as you point out, Lutnick, the entire inner circle of his co-conspirators, whether that's Wexner we've seen, but the other ones, the four ladies, four women at least, they have not been called up either. So why are we only selectively going after Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton? Because it's to satisfy Trump's fever dream that he can pin this all on the Democrats. That's what he's still convinced he can do. And even if he can't do that throughout the entire country, he just needs to do that in the red states. And if he succeeds in the red states to convince them that this was all a Bill and Hillary thing, he's free and clear. And now on top of that, I just saw today, Netflix is no longer looking to buy Warner Brothers. So, that the CNN thing is going to move over to Barry Weiss and company. The news media is going to get consolidated on the side, which is going to sell the story that it was all a Democratic thing. And he just needs a little bit of that to come out of the testimony today and tomorrow. And that's really the goal, I think, of bringing Hillary and Bill in. No one's actually expecting Lutnick to show up or anyone of real consequence to show up and testify.
That's why I say we need new blood in the House and in the Senate, and that's why it's so important with what's going with the midterms or with what's going on with the election reform and everything else. But absolutely, because right now what we're seeing is theatrics, and unfortunately, the most painful it is for me as somebody that realizes been through a lot of the stuff that when you see people lie and abuse you, and you sit there and you know it's lies and the truth is these survivors. watching these women, I tell you honestly, when I sat in that courtroom, when Pam Bondi was testifying, something really struck me, and I still can't get over it, because it was really, 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 it was like 1 o'clock. I don't remember exactly what time it was when we were taking a break and everybody was leaving the courtroom. And it was after when Pam Bondi was asked to turn around and face the survivors. They got up there and all of the survivors were standing there. And instead of turning around, she started saying, I'm not going to get into the gutter with this and stuff like that. Watching their faces drop, watching them walk out that room after that, and walking through the hall, like holding hands, like hugging each other, like literally, it was just watching them saying, this is this is the attorney general. And then not yesterday, I'm sorry, but when we were at the swamp, what's it called, when we were doing the swamp union, Stay in the Swamp. The other thing that really, really was amazing to watch is that you had a gallery filled with survivors. You had a gallery filled with survivors, and you had the president of the United States, if that's what you could call this individual, but you had him standing there talking about all of these different things and praising, and some of those people very well deserve the praises of some of these, people getting, not the hockey player that got I can't understand, but without taking that aside, but he didn't mention the survivors once. Now this is supposed to be a president. How do you not, how is it their fault? This is what I want to say. Okay, you don't want to hear about the Epstein files, you want to move on. You said you have been cleared. You make statements like, I am vilified, or they cleared me, I could go out and I could talk. So if that is the case, President Trump, why can't you acknowledge for these poor survivors and say, yes, and here in the gallery we have the survivors standing here? That should show you everything of who this is a person of division. And that's why people in Congress, people in Senate that enabled him to get to this point, because he would have never been here if it wasn't for a lot of those people without spines that are now sitting back and thinking, why did we do this, or how do we get back? I could tell you that's why we need a major shift. We need a change. We need fighters in there. We need people in there that are willing to go up there and not be scared to speak truth to power, not be scared to ask the hard questions, because it wouldn't look the right way. Because right now, I'm sorry, yes, we have some true fighters, but majority a bunch of cowards that allowed this country to get to where we are.
The cover-up that's involved in here, and Ellie, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this as well. Like there is such a massive cover-up. I mean, you pointed to the site being down now, but there's 50 pages or more of evidence against Donald Trump potentially raping an underage girl who over 4 interviews with the FBI, like not just 1 or 2, but 4 sworn under oath interviews with the FBI, alleged that the president and others raped her. That is a cover-up of mammoth proportions, and it still seems to be succeeding.
Yeah, well, they're not. When you look at these again, and I go back to what I keep saying is, the files are filled with a lot of information. Some of it is, probably a lot of it is factual. Some of it isn't, because it's, it's kind of like an FBI tip line. You get some of each. But what you have to look for credibility is if they are followed up with. And this was a girl who was followed up with. She had an initial interview, and then she was followed up with the FBI 3 more times and had legal representation. They don't get legal representation unless they have a credible case. So those are the things you look for when something has credibility. Did somebody pay attention to it, but then paid attention to it again and came back to it again and came back to it again? That matters, because there are things in there that are in there one time and then you don't hear about them again, and they may be a little far-fetched, they may not be, who knows, but when somebody is in there multiple times and it's because they paid attention to their case, that matters, and that gives it credibility. So this was a very credible accusation, and it's one of what we got. 30, I think we ended up saying we had found 38,000 references to Trump in the files, and the unredacted version had 1 million. So he is redacted, 960,000 times. For what? Why would you redact somebody 960,000 times if they're innocent?
We're still missing,
right?
3 million pages or something. I mean, there's still a lot of pages that are missing as well. I mean, they've been very selective about what they've released. Someone pointed out today that the 1999 to 2001 files are completely missing. That, of course, encapsulates 9/11.
Right.
There's some really big events that could have involved Epstein in the same network that is still not being released for whatever reason.
Right.
Some people are still agreeing that that's okay to keep covered. And that could
they're
also
using
involve Donald Trump.
They're using the excuse of pre-internet, right? They're like,
Yeah.
everything wasn't digitized, it was handwritten, it's harder to
Back in the 90s.
but it exists. It exists. And if they have 1,000 people working for them, they can put someone with a scanner to like put this stuff through the scanner. Like, it's not that hard to do.
They had the internet in 1999.
Well, I know, but like quality,
right.
this is the excuse they're using.
And
right?
earlier, but let's call something like what's right. By the way, Zev, Wajahid Ali just texted me that he sent him an invite. He'll come up.
Okay,
and join
sure.
us also. So send Wash. But what I want to say is like, just think about, we're talking about all of these crazy things, right? But think about if we could stop and concentrate just and for 1 second and not go off on 20 tangents and really concentrate. We have right now files that Roger Sollenberger really broke about this 13 to 15-year-old girl that, like you said, the police, there was not one but 3 or 4 interviews done, and now these files are missing. And these are files that implicate the sitting president of the United States by 13, an underage girl. I mean, this is the smoking gun. This is right now, we should be like all over. We should be right now, every reporter, every congressman, every congresswoman, every senator should be standing on the White House lawn and saying, wait a second. Everybody should be scared. Every Republican, we should be right now subpoenaing Pam Bondi back in there and saying, no, we want to see where are those files. We have copies of them. They've disappeared, but we still have copies. I mean, Roger Sollenberger took a lot of us, we still have copies of what was, in some of those files that they are now erasing. Plus, where are the 302s? Where are the 302s? Those are the most important things. The more I'm hearing from my sources, that is the number one thing that they're hiding, the 302s, because those are the witness statements. Those are the survivor statements, the actual victim statements, actual statements done that are taken under oath, under perjury oath, that, when the FBI takes that. We are not seeing any of them.
While we wait for Waj to join as well, I did want to talk to you guys about the Rothschild stuff that I've been putting out there, because in the midst of all of these files, but Ellie, do you want to jump in on what we were just talking about, the cover up? I don't want to just leave that hanging there like that.
No, go ahead. I mean, it's one of it's the elephant in the room, but it's also like so obvious to everyone. Like, the entire Epstein files case is a cover up. Like, we're only seeing what we're seeing because we screamed and yelled and made us think about it. Like, they had no plans to ever show any of this to us. They were going to go about their merry way with their helicopters and islands and keep doing all of this stuff. So it is covered up because they would like to continue living this life and doing these things and having no consequences for it.
Now, I do think they're a little surprised by some of the stuff that is popping up. And I think the Rothschild stuff is one of those things that's not necessarily what they thought was going to happen. Because, if this checks out, and it could very well check out to be a genealogical link between Jeffrey Epstein and this famous Viennese banking family called the von Epsteins, then that's a really interesting thing, because we've been told a story all along that Jeffrey Epstein is this poor guy whose father was a refuse collection person, a sanitation worker in New York City, and Epstein, just by sheer brilliance, got a job at Delton to be a math teacher, and from there was so brilliant that he got a job at Bear Stearns. Now that's the line we've been told, and everyone's been wondering, how did this guy get billions of dollars if he's just a math teacher, just a guy from Brooklyn whose his father was a sanitation worker? Now, this new story that Jeffrey was busy telling all his associates, and they were buying, and they would know too. I mean, the Rothschilds would know about other banking families. So if this new version of events is that he is a descendant of this von Epstein family, which was a very famous banking family that went bankrupt in 1873 in Austria, then that changes the whole narrative. Suddenly, he's not some poor guy. So, in this case, he becomes someone with real lineage, connected to a lot of aristocracy. And by the way, the Rothschilds family and the Epstein family were very close to each other. They were allies as well as competitors in Vienna, and they had an understanding, I believe, that when the Epsteins collapsed and they ran out of money, the Rothschilds consolidated them into their empire, which explains maybe why Epstein got this amazing review from the Rothschild, the head of the Rothschild family, when Wexner asked for that review. That's a very different narrative than we've been showing up until now, and it dramatically changes the whole thing. Because now, is this just another geopolitical, geoeconomic game that this vast family, the Rothschild family, which owns so much money around the world, is just manipulating our economy, manipulating our politics for money, which they've done time and time and time again. I mean, they've done it since, the early 1800s. And they're on, you can see it if you study them in the 1800s. Here's the evidence out of the files. So this is Martin Nowak saying Jeffrey Ritter von Epstein would be the name of a descendant of the Epstein family. Ritter means knight, and von is an indicator that it's a royal family or an aristocratic family. So if it's just left as Jeffrey Epstein.
Who's that from? Who's that from?
This is Martin Nowak, who I think is
he's a Harvard professor.
Harvard professor, yeah.
Evolutionary dynamics.
So that's a Harvard professor sending an email to Epstein. From what I would say, just from I think Epstein was more of a con artist than I think connected to the Rothschilds. My honest opinion, but it could be right. But I think he would have been somebody that could have used that and used that as his lineage and found that, and that's why maybe we're seeing that. With the Harvard professor, for maybe he used that as part of some of his, interaction with others as getting the billions of dollars, or possibility there might be lineage, So, I mean, Epstein is still one of those guys, the most mysterious man in the world, because because of the biggest cover up in the world. I mean, all of this could be very easily answered if they would just unredact and release the files and let us go through them. But the reason why Epstein, we have so many questions and he's such a mysterious man, is because Donald Trump and his administration has chosen to be his number one protector. Just think about that. In the whole world, the number one protector of pedophilia of Jeffrey Epstein is Donald Trump and his administration. Everyone else in the world is trying to uncover and punish and walk away from it. Here in the United States, the president of the United States couldn't even look these survivors in the face and recognize them during the State of the Union. Instead, he says, let's move on.
Although, I will say that's all, what you're saying is true, except for what I discovered about Wilbur Ross. Wilbur Ross is the former Commerce Secretary for Donald Trump's first administration. But before that, he was the head of Rothschild in the United States, and was the guy who actually helped Donald Trump beat bankruptcy when his casinos went tits up in the 1980s. Or 90s. So to me, that's really strange that you've got Wilbur Ross, big part of the Rothschild's empire, bailing out Donald Trump because he was one of the big bondholders of the casinos. And he, in fact, argued in favor of Donald Trump staying in charge of the casinos. So you've got that piece of it. You've got Ariane de Rothschild, who's a Rothschild, who would know, by the way, if her family history intersects with the von Epsteins, and who would know if Epstein is real or not, I would think. And then you've got these various emails. Here he is sending Eva Dubin a Wikipedia entry from Gustav Ritter von Epstein, the founder of the Epstein Bank. Can you believe it? There was a Justa Epstein, and then she says, "What number are you on?" Then the most striking one is this one. This is, again, Martin Nowak, who's on his trip, I think, to Europe. He's able to identify the tombstones of Gustav and takes a photograph and sends it to Jeffrey, and he says, and I can't even read that, sorry, it's really small, but he says basically in his adventure he's been able to find the tombs of his ancestors. So, he certainly had people like Martin Nowak, a Harvard professor, Ariane de Rothschild, and others believing that this guy was what we say he was actually an aristocratic banker.
Well, something that I learned this. Go ahead. I was going to say something that I learned this week was Linda Rothschild is actually the person who who introduced Epstein to Prince Andrew, which I always assumed it was Ghislaine Maxwell, but it was actually Linda Rothschild who introduced into the royal family. So that was new information for me. So that may line up with all of this.
God, the Rothschilds are everywhere, in the Jeffrey Epstein story, and it makes you very suspicious. It makes me wonder, why are they in every single aspect of that, and then why are they also in Donald Trump's life in the way that they were? It's just very confusing. Waj Ali from the Left Hook. Hello, you were such a superstar on Tuesday. I watched your panel; it was really good.
No, thank you. First of all, I had no idea that you had invited me on StreamYard, so I was just listening because I've been really curious about it. So, and then I figure out, Zev texted me. Oh, it's a StreamYard. So thank you for
first time in here. I'm a newbie.
Yeah, but I've, I really appreciate the connection with Linda Rothschild, and because I'm also very curious, I need to learn more. So I'm going to have Zev and Ellie back on to explain it to me. But as far as Tuesday goes, real quick, folks, that was State of the Swamp. It's the first time I met Lev and Ellie in person. Believe it or not, in person, terrible human.
I was jealous. I was jealous.
I know. We were watching.
It's really weird. On the screen they're very sweet, but in person, my God, no, everyone was lovely. It was very sweet. It was a raucous crowd. And I'll say this, Zev, and I'm sure Ellie and Lev were there. That crowd, there was 500 people, completely sold out. These people, they actually flew. People flew from Ohio. They came from Philadelphia. They came from California. First of all, they watch all of us. Second of all, they appreciate our analysis. I know because they told me. Third of all, they really appreciate Lev and Ellie and you guys and what you're doing with Epstein. And a lot of our compatriots on Substack who get together. And also there was a righteous rage, Ellie and Lev, that I saw, that people wanted action and people were really fed up. Something I haven't seen, Zev, in a long, long time. And I think now that you have the Epstein files, plus the Epstein class, plus the news of the merger that's most likely going to happen, that's going to be completely disastrous with the Ellisons. Now you have the fact that the DNC is being paid by like the pro-AI lobby groups, the fact that the Pentagon is pressuring Anthropic, the fact that Donald Trump is doubling down. We're seeing, and especially like you said, all these same players doing everything in their power to gobble up all of our milkshake and our resources instead of, transparency, truth, and accountability. They'd rather burn the world down, Zev.
But it's not, it's terrifying that they're succeeding in doing this as well, because, yes, there's righteous indignation coming out of the Defiance meeting, but is it enough to actually turn away this incredible effort by the president right now? And Lev, we wanted to talk about this as well. He's now planning to blame China for election interference in 2020, as Lev predicted he would do, and then call a national emergency around elections. He'll be able to replace voting machines and insist on voter IDs for other people. At the same time, he's also juicing the economy with lower mortgage rates, which he's attempting to buy favor with the American public. Now, it's clear this is not the first time an American president has done this, has tried to use economic power or juicing the economy in order to win an election, but they're doing it in a very blatant way, and they're doing it on both fronts, on an economic way and using this national emergency to control who can actually vote on that day. That's very troubling. It doesn't look to me like there's enough of a push to stop that from happening.
Well, I appreciate, Zev, I love you. I appreciate the prediction, but I wish I could predict things. I'd be a very rich man. I'm not good at predictions, but thank God I really do have some good sources. And some
good sources. Dude, you got it right this time. You got it really right. I saw that story in the Washington Post, and I was like, damn, that was good.
When Lev comes on and says, so I'm sure Ellie and Zev had this experience with Lev also. But since the summer, so far, I give credit where credit's due. When Lev says, I'm very confident, and he comes on. But then there's other times when he says, just wait, this is what I've heard. Let me check in on it. But so when Lev comes out saying, I'm very confident so far, knock on wood, mashallah, as we say, he's batting 1,000.
Yeah, he is. This is a good one.
Thank you, guys, and I give all the thank you to those brave people that are in the administration that are risking a lot to give this information. And this is one of the things for the past month that I've been, every time we would speak about other things that are going on, this one individual, and I'm not gonna say if it's a man or a woman, so they don't find out who it is, but God bless their soul, because that person would constantly tell me, Lev, keep mentioning Tulsi Gabbard. Keep mentioning Tulsi Gabbard. It's about to hit. It's about to hit. They're really doing it. And China, and I kept, every time I'd go on Waj or you, we talk about, I would write it in my email, but And today, you know, the Washington Post basically, you know, validated, confirmed everything we've been talking about, what they're trying to do. And
So
it's
we'll tell people what they're doing. Tell people exactly what they're
Yeah.
planning on doing with China.
Yeah, so it's extremely scary. So they're basically saying that in 2020 that China basically interfered with the U.S. elections, and right now they have actual activists that are pitching a draft order claiming that China interfered, and they want it to be investigated. And if it's proven that, or if it's accused that China interfered, there's not
In favor of Biden, right? That's what they're saying.
Right, against Donald Trump, correct. That Trump would have won Georgia, and because there was national foreign interference, because of that, Trump is then able to announce. It's called the National Emergency Act. It's different than the what's it called, the Insurrection Act. It's different, and this is why it's important, because we kept talking about Insurrection Act. We could talk about martial law, and that is what originally they were planning on doing. But because of the pushback from the people, because of everything we've been doing, because of the way ICE has backfired, and all of this has backfired in their face, this was Plan B that they've been working on for 6 months. This is what federalization of election is, because this is a thing that basically the Emergency Act would allow him to stop, ban mail-in voting. It would mandate rigid voter ID, and it would give the president, and this is the important one, it would give the president full power over how ballots are cast and how counted and how they are counted worldwide, nationwide. And if you remember, that's the thing that Putin told him in Alaska. It's not who votes for you, Donald, it's who counts the votes. And ever since then, this is what has been on his mind. And that's what's happening right now in Georgia, folks.
Well, in 2 weeks ago, what did he say? 2 weeks ago, he always tips his plan. They just tell you now, Zev and Ellie and Lev. He said, Republicans, it's time to take over the elections, time to take over the state elections, which should have been a 5-alarm fire, but it's Trump. So, you know, instead we concentrate on AOC, not knowing that Venezuela is above the equator instead of below the equator. And then also, speaking to what Lev said, remember when he met with Putin put his worm in the ear about mail-in ballots. So he's been repeating that nonsense, mail-in ballots, even though he's voted by mail-in ballots. Then he went and did gerrymandering, which is now going to turn out to be a dummy mander in Texas. Then he talked about Tulsi Gabbard, right? Another big 5-alarm fire. God forbid Obama or Biden had done this. Remember, Tulsi Gabbard was with the FBI at the raid of the Fulton County office. And then, Zev, Tulsi Gabbard took out the phone, had Trump on the phone talking to the FBI agents, right? And then after that, talk about the SAVE Act, where at the State of the Union, he lied and talked about voter fraud. It's all bullshit. And SAVE Act is voter suppression. You got voter suppression, going after mail-in ballots, gerrymandering. Also, Lev, I remember this. They didn't say no to Steve Bannon's suggestion of ICE patrolling the voting booths. So you have full court press, and now because they see that they might lose in Texas, folks, he is.
Did you see that poll today? That was insane. Down 10% underwater in Texas is unbelievable.
He's 22 to 26 with independents. No one sees these numbers. 22 to 26 with independents. So going to Lev's point, they have like, it's like Connect 4. If you ever play Connect 4, I might get him this way, I might get him this way, I might get him this way. And now they're so desperate. They're like, oh, holy shit, everything that we're doing might not save us. The voter suppression might not save us. The gerrymandering might not save us. Trying to go after mail-in ballots might not save us. Threatening people might not save us. So let me just do Plan B, executive order, and straight up take over the elections.
Yeah. I mean, do you remember the first time around pulling the mailboxes out of the ground? Do you remember that in the first round? I remember that in where we lived. Like, you would drive around, there was literally people digging up the mailboxes so that you could not.
Oh, right. Remember that? That's right. In order to suppress the votes in certain neighborhoods.
That was like my first inkling of fascism. I was like, hold on, that feels fascist. Like, we can't vote.
It's a good feeling you had there. You're right. You're right on. It was fascism.
But this one, guys, and I'm sorry, but this one is extremely, and I want to keep sounding the alarm, and I want to make sure, because all of these things, it's one thing about trying to stop the people, but I believe that the people are so fed up that they won't let even ICE intimidate them. They won't let people are going to come out in droves. That we're seeing the numbers, even these special elections, off-year elections, we're seeing counties that are flipping 30 points the other way. So I'm confident the people. Why I'm sounding the alarm here, folks, is because the most important thing, and I'm going to repeat it again, it's who counts the votes. And this is what I want to say. And this is why there has to be right now some sort of Congress has to unite. The Senate has to unite. There has to be emergency hearings. Donald Trump should not be able to right now use the power, this national emergency power, because of some pretense of foreign interference by China, to be able to now go use this, because he's going to use it in only 15, 16 states. It's not going to be used.
At the end of the day, he's not going to get defeated out of court. I mean, no court's going to sit around and say, well, there really is an emergency here. China is not ever been credibly accused of being involved in the 2020 election win of Joe Biden by anybody.
The one thing that don't say never, say never. Every time we
logic.
say never,
You're working with logic. We never work with
they don't
logic.
They don't work with logic. Exactly. They're propagandists. You know what I'm saying to you?
Can I give you two examples to respond to Zev?
Yeah.
As a practicing, as a recovering attorney, I remember last summer, still licensed. I remember last summer knowing full well, eyes wide open, that the Supreme Court is filled with right-wing reeks groomed by the Federal Society and billionaires. I remember the Trump v. United States case. And I thought, you know what? Maybe they'll give him a little bit of a leash, but they'll keep him somewhat restrained. And I'll tell you, I was talking to other folks, many of us whom you know, none of us expected that wide latitude that these Trump reeks gave Donald Trump, which was essentially, if you all remember, absolute immunity for core functions done as the commander-in-chief,
right,
which was essentially a get-out-of-jail-free card for Donald Trump. Now, they said absolute immunity for presidents. We all know is for Donald Trump. My anger and rage at the Democratic establishment and Joe Biden is that Joe Biden had several months after that ruling to say, oh, really? Absolute immunity? All right. I got nothing to lose. I'm a lame duck president. F y'all. Yeah. Didn't do that. Even now, Zev, Lev, and Ellie, they still don't play and operate as an opposition party. They do footsie in civility, right? Yep. So this Trump administration, which is emboldened, and remember, folks, even speaking about the Supreme Court, I'm old enough to remember when Alito sat there and was so disrespectful to Obama when it came to Citizen United. Remember, he said, you lied. And then John Roberts, who never comes out and speaks, even did a press conference about, the president, he shouldn't have criticized us. These people had no problem, at least a handful of them, coming to the State of the Union after Donald Trump called them what? He said they were paid off by foreign influencers, called them fools, called them idiots. And look at that. Like little reeks, they just stood there. So I have no faith in the Supreme Court. And furthermore, speaking about even this merger, which is a disastrous merger if it happens, folks, and Warner Brothers, real quick.
It's really terrible.
If for those who don't know, if this goes through, if I may, real quick, because it's all connected.
At
the State of the Union, who was Lindsey Graham's guest of honor?
Ellison. Ellison was there.
David Ellison sitting there with Lindsey Graham, who's the head of Paramount and Skydance, the Nepo baby son of Larry Ellison, just happened to be, folks, at the State of the Union with Lindsey Graham. And voila, February 26th, Netflix now says, you know what? This isn't worth it. We're going to back out. Now, David Zaslav just went on CNN. Tapper and Brian Stelter are talking, and I'm like, Stelter and Tapper, pack your bags.
Pack your bags.
Zaslav is the head of Warner Brothers. Like, this is fantastic. This will lead to growth. Just a cliff note. Larry Ellison and David Ellison. Larry Ellison is the 6th wealthiest person in the world. Yeah. Larry Ellison is the largest private donor to the IDF. Larry and David Ellison are hardcore pro-Netanyahu and pro-Trump fanatics. David Ellison is the Nepo baby son of Larry Ellison, who runs Paramount Skydance. He brought on Barry Weiss. Barry Weiss completely destroyed CBS. If this merger goes through, the 6th most wealthy person on earth, the Larry and David Ellison father and son, will own TikTok, which Larry Ellison just took over a couple of months ago, Paramount, Warner Brothers, CBS, TNT, TBS, Discovery, HBO, and CNN. They will own 2 major remaining movie studios. So think about all the talent and all the stories. You won't get Sinners. You won't get one battle after another. They've already put, Paramount has already put a blacklist of talent that's spoken out against the genocide, which includes Javier Bardem, Olivia Colman, Melissa Barrera. And then David Ellison has already openly said, I agree with Donald Trump. We should look into CNN. Yeah, we should make sure that it's fair. So you're going to get CNN neutered. CBS is already neutered. last season of John Oliver, his contract is up next year. That means John Oliver's gone.
Oliver's gone.
And then think about all the talent that speaks out against abolish ICE now, and about
they're done.
They're done, because if you have Paramount and Warner Brothers that has all this property, folks, and all these movies, do you want to work? Well, if you want to work, shut up about Israel, shut up about ICE, shut up about Trump. Sorry for my rant.
No, that's good. That's good news. That's good news for people on Substack, right? I mean, there is a lot more attention going to be
that's what
on
I was
everyone
thinking.
who watches this and our fantastic viewers who are here tonight, because what that really does speak to the need for an independent platform like Substack. But it is terrible for the mainstream media for them to be co-opted in this way. And what you're saying is not, in a newsroom, and you'll know this, Waj, is when you get in there and you've got 6 reporters that might go cover a story right now, because you've got the CNN reporter, you got the CBS reporter, you might get ABC, you get 4 other networks. Each of them sends out their own reporter. You get a diversity of voices covering the story. What they're going to do is amalgamate all those news gathering resources and send just one reporter out to cover each of these events. So you're not going to get people actually asking questions or asking for a diversity of opinion or competing with each other for coverage. You're going to get the state-run media thing that you get in Russia.
That's the first part of dictatorship, authoritarianism, and communism. It's the first, when you take away the people's right to be able to get information, when you stop them. And, that's what we're seeing, a coalition. This is not business, folks. This is a coalition to be able to take away the mainstream media. Because, yes, it's great for people on Substack, but just think about the numbers. You're still having, just think about all those channels. Then now we're going to change the narrative. All those channels, just think about all those documents. You know how many, I was speaking to, just interesting, you mentioned this. I was speaking to a good friend of mine literally like a few hours ago, he's in the documentary business, and he was telling me that business is dead, because first of all, anything to do with Donald Trump, anything to do with the administration, anything, no, but you can't write a book, you can't get an I put it this way, I wanted to go I was just calling to get an agent, thinking about how to get booked on shows and stuff like that. You can't get an I can't get an as soon as Donald, if you're against Donald Trump, nobody wants to touch you. I mean, you can't get a lawyer. Thank God for people like Abby Lowland out there that are out there, or standing up to it, because you get in trouble. Look at all the law firms that took a knee to him. I mean, it is really bad, and that is why thank God that we still have Substack, that we have these voices, that we have the subscribers that are out there that are helping us, because that was one thing I'll tell you, Waj, Ali, Zev, I wish you were there with us, but the feeling through those 500 sold out people, I felt millions of people that through their voice, right? Watch, cool. Ellie, you felt the people, like you said, they came from all over, and they were, and they were really to stand up, and they're willing to talk, and that's why, so I could tell you, I feel good that as long as we have some Congress people, some senators that get some kind of backbone quickly, folks. If because not otherwise, I truly, it is very difficult, because what they're trying to do right now, this is bigger than anything else we've seen, because if they're able to announce a national emergency where Donald Trump is able to start counting votes, how the votes are counted, without even sending in ICE, because at that point he doesn't need anything, folks. Just it's checkmate.
Although if they're really down so much, sorry, Elena, I want to jump in here as well.
No, go ahead.
But if they're really down 10-20% in places, that's not then no amount of telling people who can vote and rigging the vote is really going to make enough of a difference. That's too much of a gap to make up. They can make up a few percent, but I don't think they can make up that many percent. But maybe they can.
Well, think about what they say. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, Ellie, you wanted to go first, and then
I was just going to say, they keep trying to invest in like these news networks and news stations, and for years now, legacy media has been dying. Right, the actual media has been dying. The demographic of people who literally sit down and have Dish Network are literally dying. Like the people who are paying for these things are an older generation. There's very few people who go specifically to legacy news media to get their news. We still stream movies, but that landscape is changing. I work on documentaries. The documentary landscape is changing. If you think of it like for people who've published books, like it's the idea of self-publishing. Like everything is becoming self-published, and it's that independent media. It's like Substack. It's like anything else where people now get their news from podcasters. They go onto YouTube. They do things like that. So it's, the idea that people are still investing in these major news stations feels like a poor long-term investment for whoever's doing it, because people generationally have completely veered away from those places.
But what they're doing very deliberately is they know that they're only targeting the eyeballs of, like you said, Ellie, like these older individuals or meth addicts who've passed out on their couch. No disrespect to meth addicts, but what it is, it's a very deliberate territorial expansion.
Right.
We are going to spend money knowing full well we're not going to get a return on investment, but it doesn't matter. Our return on investment is control. Our return on investment is gobbling up the real estate. Our return on investment is fracturing, balkanization. So even though we know CNN is going to be perhaps, I don't know, a loss leader, now we control 2 of the remaining 4 major studios.
Right.
Now we control CBS. Now we control HBO. Now we control CNN. And we have now punctured, if you will, the resistance. We have removed a John Oliver. What do? Stephen Colbert. What do they try to do? Jimmy Kimmel. See, it was very deliberate. Who'd they bring in? Barry Weiss, pro-billionaire, pro-Israel, pro-Trump, right? So we will do everything that we can to, if you will, batten down the hatches and sandbag, and we will control, gobble, 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 and we'll balkanize the rest of you. Because if you honestly think about it, it was really encouraging, Zev, if you were, and all the people who weren't there at State of the Swamp. I don't know about you, Ellie and Lev and Zev. I have like 800 kids. I drive my Honda Odyssey minivan. I live my life. I sometimes forget, like I have no delusions of grandeur, folks. I forget sometimes I've written for the New York Times. I forget that I was on TV. I just go and live my life, right? I'm sure you guys are all the same way. So then when people come up to you like they did, and they're like, wow, hey, man, can I take your photo? I'm like, I'm not Mehdi Hassan. We're like, we know you're not Mehdi Hassan.
It's weird.
Yeah. And people are like, thank you so. And people are like, I follow you. I follow Ellie, Zev, and Lev, and you, and Mary, and Katie. You guys are like saying things that I want the mainstream media to hear. But that's the good news. The problem is, folks, as you know, Lev, Zev, and Ellie, we don't have the bandwidth. We don't have the numbers. I was talking to Katie Fang earlier about this today. She was on MSNBC. Now she's a host. She's an attorney. She said, watch, and she mentioned all of us. She gave you guys all a shout out. She said, can you imagine if you, me, Ellie, Lev, Zev, and everyone else who's been doing this work piecemeal, if we actually had a budget, if we actually had personnel, if we actually had a team, we could perhaps, honestly, I have faith enough in us that we can, inshallah, in 1 year, piece together a massive case. But we're working such
100% right.
Yeah, but we're working in balkanized silos, trying our best to put out all these fires that these mother effers are creating, and that's part of the plan. So I just want to say that they're not that stupid. They know this is a lost leader for them, 100%. But they can just gobble it up, crush, distract, and balkanize.
That was brilliant, folks. If you, I want you guys, when you watch this, replay that. But I'm serious. That was very brilliant. I mean, Waj just broke it down to you, because that's exactly right. Ellie's right. This is lost leader. CNN, all of these, they're buying it because also you got to understand the content. We're talking about reporting news, but all of these shows also do other things than report news. They put on shows. They put on, and all of these shows are now going to be leaning far right shows. You're going to have shows that have, and when you're watching these different, programs and all of these different like documentaries, all of these stuff, now they're leaning pro. It's all part of brainwashing. So it's not just the news. It's about what type of new television shows they're going to start producing and making, what kind of movies they're going to start producing.
It's much more than that too, though. Because what Oracle's main business is streaming. What Oracle does for the rest of the industry is stream. So now it's going to be not only the content provider, but it's going to be the distributor of all the content. So everybody, whether it's TikTok or anywhere else you stream, really, you'll have to go to Oracle. And that will allow Oracle to buy up even more and more content creators, because they'll give them a better deal on the streaming. Streaming is very expensive. So all of these companies are going to get gobbled up by the streaming network. And then what they're going to have, all the content, they'll have all the delivery mechanism, and they'll have the data to target you. In other words, if I want to target you with specific propaganda, they'll send it to you.
Have the data.
Yeah, and those two things are killer.
Yeah. And can I just say this? Look, speaking about Oracle, this is from I favorited this because I think it's an important point. Hugo Lowell, very good reporter from Guardian. I'm going to quote him. One part of the Paramount Warner story that has been so underreported is the extent of the Trump White House ties to the Ellisons. Multiple very senior administration officials previously consulted for Oracle or the Ellisons and have been mounting a monumental effort behind the scenes to get this done.
And one thing I just want to add, because a lot of people say Substack and it's great, but I want to just wake everybody up. Make sure we could one day wake up and somebody buying Substack, just like they bought CNN, just like, so, and just remember who owns Substack. It's another tech guy, and listen, at the end of the day, that's why we need to not only act quickly, but we need to, we speak about that offline, Zev, and what you were talking about, actually, Waj, about, I agree with you 100%. I think that, a lot of the work that we're doing, and that's one of the things I scream about a lot, is united, because we do such great work, but we're all doing a little bits and pieces here, that if we were to, like you said, like Katie said, unite and put we got such incredible, great talent now on Substack, some incredible talent to be able, we could have, our own actual, show 12 hours a day, just like any CNN that will have such incredible content, from investigative journalism to all kinds of powerful stuff that will give you actually truth, facts, and that. But that's where we are. And the one thing they have, and I always said it, remember from day one, they have a lot of money, and they have people that are willing to throw that money and spend that money at all of this stuff. That's the one thing we don't have. We have grassroots, and we have a lot of division, people wanting to go their own ways and have their own ideas. And that's the one thing I keep saying every time I talk about it. For God's sake, just for this time around, we all need to put all our policies, all our differences aside, and unite on humanity, unite on taking this dictator out, bringing back a legitimate government, so we could then get back to talking about policies, discussing about our things, because right now we are so divided like never before. And it's just
that's so right, and it's so accurate. And what you're saying about the working together is it could be as simple as all of us figuring out which times of day. I mean, Waj takes about 7 hours every day because that's how much broadcasting this guy does. But and the rest of us could just have like 30 minutes each, and it would be fine. Would fill up the whole schedule, and it would be hugely successful. Yeah, but I mean, it is as simple as that. At the end of the day, we could just subdivide a schedule, figure out a schedule that does all that. But is it going to get the marketing? Is it going to get the promotion? Is it going to get the support of the Substack audience? And will they back it, really? Because it's up to the people to back this kind of initiative, and that's the real question. Maybe that's something we should think about how to start. Go ahead,
I just real quick? I have to run because it's. I don't know what's wrong with me, folks. I should relax. It's fasting. It's Ramadan, but then the world is and I just feel compelled to jump on. And I've been very lucky and privileged that I know a lot of people, so I bring on experts who are much smarter than me, and I talk to all of you. But here's something, just a real quick response to Lev before I jump off, because I've been thinking about this. Right, I don't have faith in any big tech corporation. I don't have faith in Twitter. I never did. I'm from the Bay Area, and I remember, folks, the old heads might remember this. Remember Google's motto, "Do no evil." Remember that?
Yeah, that's right.
Don't do evil, right? So I saw the de-evolution of all these people, how these people who are supposed to bring in the internet and growth and community and free expression, right? They ended up becoming the fascists who were on the front row of Donald Trump's administration, right? Similarly, Substack has been very good to us. Do I have faith in Substack leadership? I do not. And so what I'm planning on is that they might betray us for the dollar. So what I think we have to do, folks, is we have to make it so lucrative for them not to abandon us that they'll go with the Spotify model. Example, Joe Rogan said the N-word. Joe Rogan, promoted all this bunk science. But because Joe Rogan got so many eyeballs, what did the Spotify CEO do? Who doesn't say the N-word and spout dangerous anti-science conspiracies? And they gave him a $110 million contract. I know this sounds very cynical, but if you look at the top politics on Substack, right? Thankfully, in the past year, ever since Trump was reelected, we have all of us are moving towards the top, right?
Yeah.
You still have the free press there because I think it's hyperinflated through billionaire money. You have free press there and a couple other freaks I don't want to mention, but they're mostly it's us. So, I'm just folks, this is how capitalism works. We have to make ourselves too lucrative and profitable for Substack to abandon us, meaning that Substack will say, yeah, future fascist regime, we want to play ball with you, but we're all about free speech. Why?
Right.
They don't give a shit about free speech. Ellie makes a lot of money. Zev has a lot of viewers. Lev trends. So I swear to God, folks, it's not a pitch, but this is a strategy that I'm thinking about. We have to become too big for Substack and then also YouTube to abandon us. And as such, if you can, subscribe to Ellie, subscribe to Lev, subscribe to Zev. If you can, subscribe to the Left Hook. I have no paywalls. At the very least, subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube, like it. If you're watching it on Substack Live, I heard the hearts actually tell the elves in the algorithm to uplink our video, our live video on Substack. This is how I think strategically, guys, we can find a way to buttress ourselves against capitalism.
Brilliant.
You said you were a bad capitalist before. You're not a bad capitalist.
For somebody for
You're
a bad
new marketing
capitalist, just
manager.
brilliant. I just want to say brilliant. Very few times where I could just sit back and not say anything. That was brilliant, Waj.
No, thank you all for watching. Thanks, guys. I got kids.
Waj.
Yeah, thanks very much, Waj Lee from the Left Hook. Everyone should subscribe because it's that good, it's that smart, and he's actually a good capitalist. Who knew?
I was going to say, if Substack was smart, they would be putting their full weight behind independent journalism and marketing themselves as the platform for independent journalism so that they tempt people like Rachel Maddow and important, like huge voices to come and become independent rather than work.
I think they're doing some of that. Their new motto is all about independent voices.
They are definitely trying.
They need to market that because that is, that's what's happening. And if they don't that could benefit them, but I also want all those people to come.
Or we could just go on our own and start our own Substack and then we don't need them.
Well, I'll tell you, we definitely have to be careful. The one thing I always talk about is definitely just like Waj and all of you are saying, we need to grow. It's about numbers. The bigger we grow our communities, the bigger we grow our movements, the bigger we are, it's harder for them to shut us up. But also, we talk about me, Zev, Ellie, Waj, all of us offline. We talk about this problem. This is a major problem because one day, what does it take for an Elon Musk to give Substack an offer they can't refuse? I mean, you're talking about the richest guy in the world. Look what he did to Twitter. He overpaid. He paid $42 billion for something that wasn't worth $20 billion at the time, if I'm wrong, right? Just to be able to influence his opinion. So let's be realistic. Go ahead, Ellie. Go ahead.
If you look at State of the Swamp, like that was a very Substack heavy event. That was a Substack event. Like it was all Substackers and very small handful of people who are not on Substack. And they've had 250 million hits. Was it million? Yeah. That's an investment that Substack needs to pay attention to.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of reach in Substack, especially amongst people who follow you two. Ellie Leonard from the Panicked Writer. What's happening at your Substack right now, and what should people be checking out?
Again, we're just waiting for the DOJ to let us keep searching the Epstein files because apparently tonight we're not allowed to do that. So
by the way, I got on through the back end. I got on if you got an existing previous search, you can probably get access, but you can't get in through the front. Which means could it be someone actually deliberately took us off?
But
Ellie, let me ask you. I'm sorry. Let me ask you, Ellie. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
quickly. So let me ask you, what about our Congress people? Can they still see, or is it deleted for everybody?
It's just the DOJ website. So
because what I'm thinking about is maybe we could just test it by having them take a look at some of the stuff that was deleted, see if they in the skiff, if they could see it in the skiff, or is it deleted in the skiff also?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
The skiff will still have it. The skiff will still have it, I think. It can't be the whole...
They probably have a different version. Yeah. They probably aren't even using the same site that we're using. But I had a search open that was populated, and I just went to the next page over because there's multiple pages and totally disappeared.
It'd be interesting to see what disappears when it comes back online, if all those pages are still there. But still, Ellie, what are you focusing on the Panicked Writer?
I was looking at some of these things that we were looking at today out of the Business Insider that somebody was reporting out of 4chan,
it's such a good story.
an hour before the news, anybody had heard of it, they were reporting on 4chan that Epstein had died when nobody knew, and they said that they had the information before any newspaper knew, and then the DOJ and the FBI tried to search down their IP address, could never find out who this person is. But just like the interesting connections that Epstein has with 4chan, he was meeting with Christopher Poole, who launched something called Paul, which is politically incorrect, which basically bolstered Trump's entry into the 2016 election. He was meeting with the guy who created that system that launched Trump into the election 3 days before he launched his website and saying we should benefit this guy. This guy's a great new young mind. He's 23 years old, Christopher Poole. Let's put our weight behind him. 3 days later, he launches the website. The website becomes a super alt-right website, gets Trump elected. So there's a lot of weird things that Epstein was kind of at the beginning of that have really launched. He was at the beginning of AI. He was very good friends with Marvin Minsky, who is supposedly the godfather of AI. Like, he was behind a lot of these things, crypto, that have all somehow made their way into the Trump administration, coincidentally. So that's kind of, that's what I'm focusing on.
That's a really, really good story. And Peter Thiel's a really interesting piece of that, because, he invested $20 million into Peter Thiel's companies just before the elections. And Peter Thiel went on to work with Jared Kushner to set up all that digital media group in Texas for Donald Trump, which used Facebook data. Again, Peter Thiel. So it gets really complicated and interesting. What a great thing to cover. And the other piece of the other story of the Chan 4 is the fact that, Epstein may, we know he didn't commit, well, we don't know. We all suspect it wasn't suicide, right? We all think it's not suicide. So then it's either murder or it's an escape, is the other two options. And we don't really know which one is more likely, other than there was an autopsy on what supposedly was Jeffrey Epstein's body. But other than that, we don't, both are quite plausible under the circumstances. It could have been a suicide or an escape. I'm sorry, murder or escape.
No. I do not. Out of A, B, and C, I do not take B. It definitely, I do not suicide. I think of either A or B.
It'd be tough. It'd be tough.
Well, you're talking to a person that spent time in the jail cell like that. So, I mean, and I know you did a great piece, Zev, on that, where you saw the inside of the cell, and and that's one thing. But I could tell you from actually being in that cell, it's literally impossible to self-choke yourself because it's only 2-3 feet or maybe 4 feet height, and you're sitting down. The other thing that was very interesting that I keep mentioning that a lot of people don't talk about, I think you mentioned it though, is if you see the pictures in Epstein, is all of those orange sheets. That doesn't happen in segregation, folks. You get one sheet. I wish you could get. You get one sheet. You get. It's so there's a lot, and the fact that I wouldn't pass it for him to even be alive. I mean, with everything we're seeing, that this was not an ordinary individual. This was not a regular person. Besides the disgusting pedophilia and the disgusting child trafficking, everything, this person was also involved with some of the most biggest financial crimes in the history that Zev's been talking about. His connections to foreign groups like Russia, Israel, the UK, Middle East is just tip of the iceberg. And again, this is the things that we're already seeing. Imagine the things that are still redacted. Imagine the things that have been thrown out. Imagine the things that are still the 3.5 million things that we haven't seen. Imagine the things that we will never see because they were either destroyed or because they were before technology and we were easily destroyed, like in the 80s and 90s. So there's so much still to this Epstein saga that is to be uncovered. And, and that thank God to now this new era of crowdsourcing and to our wolf pack and to our team and to each and every one of you. Because when I say wolf pack, that doesn't mean Zev, Ellie, Lev, Wash. That means each and every one of you, because I can't even tell you how many of you are sending different emails to Ellie, to me, to Zev, to our Proton email with different things you're finding that's leading us and helping. It's an incredible. Our community has become not it's become it went from community, family, a movement. Now we are the resistance. We are the true resistance right now to save our democracy, because everything that we're seeing, this is a war not on a battlefield like the Ukrainians are fighting with guns. This is a war that we're fighting with misinformation, disinformation, where we're on here trying to make sure that the American people know the truth, so we could get out there and make sure we stop them ahead of time so they can't destroy our rights, our Constitution. And thank God to people like Zev and Dean that don't even live in America. These guys live in Canada and are supporting us here in the United States by being on this and doing it. So I just want to do a shout out to every patriot out there, everybody that showed up, everybody that shows up every day, that everybody that writes your emails, hits the like buttons, hits those hearts, goes on Substack and on YouTube. God bless each and every one of you. And it takes each of you, because there's no I in teamwork. I'm saying it takes all of us. It takes a whole community, it takes the whole country to be able to stop what we're seeing. And you know what? The number one thing I'm going to say is keep your eye on what's happening in Georgia. This thing with Tulsi Gabbard is no joke. This is extremely serious. This is being taken by people that behind the scenes that have already looked through the legal status. They know what they're doing. This is not something that they're just making up. They already have ready to go with the legal statuses. So make sure we need to stop them before they get ahead. So that's what I want to sound the alarm. Thanks, Ev.
Beautifully said. Thank you, Lev Parnas from Lev Remembers. Everyone should be subscribed to him. Of course, you all are already, but if you aren't, give him a paid subscription right now, and tell your friends and family about Lev and Ellie and everybody else that's involved here, because this really is the only place to get the truth.
Yeah.
These days, it really is the only place to get the truth in the American media scene. So thank you for being here tonight. Thank you both. Yeah. We'll do it again soon. Have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow on the 5 Stack at 3 o'clock.
Bye, guys.
Cheers, guys. Have a great night.
Great night. Thanks, Zeph. Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.